After half a season of comments and references, we finally learned the dark event in Alexandria's past that turned Michonne inward and away from her friends and neighbors. It is a disturbing tale, revealing some of the darkest potentials of humanity, and would have been a lot more impactful if half of the episode wasn't completely telegraphed. It's Look at the Flowers time on The Walking Dead, Season 9, Episode 14. Scars. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of The Walking Dead. So yes, of course, spoilers. Here's your spoiler warning, though I guess if you're in the know, I kind of gave away some of that in the cold open there. Look, I'm going to get started with the review in just a second. One small little announcement. If you guys take a look down in the description below, you're going to notice a new thing. I'm trying to put an index or table of contents, I guess maybe more of the point, down in there for quick access. Look, I know my reviews tend to go long. I get a little verbose. I like to talk. And sometimes you want to jump to the next thing. You want to go, hey, I just want to know what the scene of the week is this week. I just want to know what your extra thoughts are. I just know when you're going to be talking about the flashback sequence. You know, any of those potential things coming up here. Now, I'm going to try and start including a little index, a little table of contents, I don't know what to call it, down below, timestamp things, so you can just go ahead and jump ahead to particular points. I'm going to see how this all works. It's experimental time, so please be a little patient with me. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get to the review proper. So this week, I'm kind of a little bit of two minds. I don't know, maybe I'm having an off day. Because there are some great parts of this episode. We are finally getting our story. We're finding out what these scars mean, what these X's are on Daryl and Michonne's back. Why is Michonne so unwilling to help and reach out? Why is she, everything all sort of pulled in with Alexandria? And we finally get that tale this week. And like I said, there is some really kind of disturbing imagery, well done disturbing imagery, in this episode. On the other hand, part of me feels a little unnecessary, like we're getting this storyline because they wanted to create a tension point for this back half of the season, or technically middle of the first part of the season, after Rick's death when we did the time jump, is, why is Michonne there? Why is everything sort of pulled in? Why did all of this happen? And it sort of feels like, in a way, that this episode is just to sort of serve that. And they've implied it for so long, I was starting to kind of lose interest and care. And it was good to get this. I'm glad we got it out of the way. There were some, again, really nice moments, some really good Judith moments in this episode, especially towards the end in her little discussion there with Michonne. But it just, I don't know, like I said, part of the episode was completely telegraphed. I knew what was going on with Judith. The moment that Daryl and company were leaving, and he's looking back at Judith and saying goodbye and talking to Michonne like, yeah, she doesn't agree, she doesn't like this. All I'm thinking of with the bit that we've known of Judith is, she's sneaking out, right? Michonne, you better keep an eye on her because she's going to be sneaking out. And sure enough, she's at dinner. Oh, I'm not that hungry. Can I go? And then so she disappears, and then Michonne comes up and is done there almost tropish. I'm going to talk through the door to somebody who's not there to have a discussion. I'm glad they didn't stretch that one out, to be honest. So that was, as soon as she went in and saw that she was gone, it was like, yeah, of course she has. She has run off. That's been completely telegraphed how much she is like Rick, how much she wants to help people, how much she believes in that vision of Carl. So the whole rest of Michonne's pursuit after Judith was just kind of expected. I did like the fact that we had, when she finally came into, found Judith, she's chopping things down like your mom does, which was cool and showing badassery right there. So, I mean, that was nice. Yeah, she had to get the grab of the walker to show that she's not quite at that level yet, still needs help, but she's evolving. That was cool. But all of that pursuit, again, completely telegraphed, so I had lost some tension. And in some ways, that went along with our story of Jocelyn, our reveal of what had happened way back when Michonne's old friend Jocelyn shows up at the gates. And I have to say, that was kind of cool. And in a way, expected. This is the similar part of the country after so many years, after so much time. The chance that you might run into somebody you know, I think is reasonable. I mean, I know there's millions of people out there and so on. So, the one person, your neighbor Fred showing up. I didn't say a particular person you know. I mean, anyone you know. Spread that out enough, that likelihood is going to happen. So, to me, that was really cool. I was like, hey, you have an old friend. That's likely. I mean, at some point, this has to happen. We have a little connection. And considering that we spent the beginning of the episode showing that loss of Rick and the effect that it's had on her, which was, again, very nice, beautiful sequences there in the beginning. I loved seeing all that interplay between Michonne and Daryl and why they kind of had this connection. Daryl's just, Michonne's looking for Rick. That's how she's spending his time. But Daryl is also spending time looking for Rick. And that explains why he's been out there for so long. I'm not ever going to stop looking for him. That was all very cool. I loved that opening. So then Jocelyn showing up, it was very cool. It was a perfect kind of emotional crutch, I think, for this transition of a pregnant Michonne, to have that kind of support, that kind of connection, someone that you can tell stories about, somebody that knows her over this, who she was beforehand, all of her. Great little sequences there. I mean, that conversation in the kitchen there, when they're talking about getting the signatures, and you showed up at twice as many. Again, these are stories that old friends tell. I know that look. I know what that means. So that was awesome. So that betrayal then following that, again, equally hard, equally painful, especially when it tends to involve kids. And even that whole reveal of it, where it's like, oh yeah, we're just going to go, it was just another sleepover, and then empty house, and then you're seeing that the pantry got raided, and the food is gone, and then all of a sudden when they discover the body and the bloody kid footsteps leading to the sewer grate. I mean, come on. That's a totally disturbing image right there. That was perfectly played out. Especially how our time jump back and forward, we had shown how in the now, all those sewer grates are all locked and sealed over and kept from being open. Bars over, drilled into the concrete around them. You're not opening that up. Back then, it wasn't. You didn't think about it. Now we know why. The problem with that point is before the rest of the episode happens, we know the immediate story. Oh, you've got killer kids. Michonne's got to go do that in order to save Judith. We know that Judith gets saved. There's no danger right there. Maybe Marcus gets killed or some of the other ones. We know the kids are saved generally. But we know that this is what Michonne is going to have to go after, and this is the darkness. This is the just messed up stuff that you have to do in the apocalypse. But unfortunately, like I said, once we saw that scene, we knew pretty much how everything else was going to play out. Mostly. So for the rest of the flashback part of the episode, the hunt for Judith and Marcus and the rest of the kids, I mean, again, I'm kind of split just because we kind of know where things are going to fall out. And I know we have to see it. I know that they can't just imply, do a quick thing, tell a story. You know what happened. I know that we actually have to take that journey. And I have to say, there was something just, I don't know, dark about Jocelyn, especially when we run back into her. She's kind of this murderous female Fagen. with her little brood of kids. And I mean, we did get, especially thinking back at some of the statements she had said early on, there was a little foreshadowing. I mean, one, of course, is the kids being incredible hunters. Not just grabbing a couple of squirrels to munch on, they got some serious food. And also how Jocelyn was insisting that the kids saved her, that the parents just broke. So it was her with this sort of brood of children that she was raising. And of course, we find out that the strong survive and thrive. She is teaching them very dark survival skills. But like I said, very much like a murderous Fagen, only, like I said, not just picking pockets there. They're out to kill and gather for her. But unfortunately, we didn't get to see the one thing that she implied in that statement is that don't let the kids be weak, not like I was. And we didn't really get any background of that. I mean, even in some of the stories that were told and the discussions early on between Jocelyn and Michonne, there wasn't really seeming to be any event of weakness or description that seemed to have to back that up. So while, again, disturbing and evil and very antagonistical, antagonistical? I don't think that's a word. There wasn't a whole lot to that. I was kind of wondering, I'm like, well, when were you weak? None of the stories seem to imply that. And that was kind of the problems with telling this part of the tale, too. Daryl's escape. We just saw him tackling, taking the one guy down and then cutting and freeing Michonne. Okay, I would have liked to have seen how Daryl did that escape. To me, that would have been cool, but we didn't get to see that. The scarring, the branding, painful, nasty, definitely teaching the kids to be dark. But what is we mark or kill, then we kill our mark? I guess once after that Michonne had escaped. Why? I mean, unless it's just to teach the kids to be cruel and then to kill. That's a sort of a step-by-step kind of thing. I guess that sort of makes sense. But again, it's not really... There's nothing to kind of back that up outside of just like, well, they had scars on their backs. We got to give them ways to have scars. Okay. Just... Again, it's small little things like that that just sort of pulled me out of stuff. Even when we get to the final sequence when Michonne runs out and gets beautifully boarded in the head by Jocelyn, man. Just whack as soon as she runs out the door. Took Michonne down in a heartbeat. That was great. And then Jocelyn starts hitting her on the back. Why? Why are you not bashing her in the face right there? What, so you can taunt? You're gonna monologue again? Don't do that. Now, on the other hand, Michonne had been sliced in the stomach, and going up that moment of going up the kids originally, you can see how much she doesn't want to hurt the kids, how much she is striving against this despite their murderous intent. Once she got that belly sliced, though, you gonna slice a pregnant woman's belly? Yeah, that's it. It's all gone. No more mercy. Time to take them down. She still had a little bit of self-control, I think, in that. But when we did have that final scene with all the kids up, and that one guy, oh man, that's so nasty. Kill her kids and then run out here. You know what has to happen at that point. And they did that quick and they did that close, and you didn't have to see kids being cut down. Don't want to do that. You don't want to actually show that. But yeah, this is all I was thinking of. All right, kids, look at the flowers. Right over there. Michonne's going to cut through you. Now, nice that she didn't have to kill Winnie. Then Winnie went ahead and dropped the knife and ran off. But are you now having like a killer psycho kid out there? You've already killed these other kids. Look, I'm not going to make that judgment. I wouldn't want to kill little Winnie either. Yes, she was cute, but unless she was going after my kid, I wouldn't necessarily, probably let her go too. But like I said, there wasn't any tension at that point. While it was dark and disturbing, We already knew where things were going. We've seen the look at the flowers. We've seen Carol deal with Lizzie and all of that. So we've been through that kind of darkness of where kids could go and how you would have to deal with them in the apocalypse. So this just, it was, like I said, the whole sequence, it was like, I know you've got to show us this, but move things on, because it's dragging stuff out. And that is where the episode sort of emotionally fell apart, in the dragging out kind of sequence, because the following scene that we had, I mean, after they were all killed and young little Judith was rescued and everything, and then we jump back to our current time, and we have that scene between Michonne and Judith, and Michonne is telling the story of what happened that day, and we find out that Judith remembered it. I didn't recognize you because you were all covered with blood, but once I did, I was happy to see you. They made it seem like a game, so we played along. I mean, again, very Pied Piper-y in some ways. We're going to have a lot of story allegories here. That's the word I'm looking for. And that was, I mean, and I think that was very cool. To me, that was emotional. That summed everything up. And I think Judith, the young actress playing Judith, I think did a fine job in that scene, holding that weight and taking those pauses, and we're like, well, I didn't say anything because it bothered you. You know, again, kids are smart. They can read the world around them. And you know, but why did we turn away from our friends? And we shouldn't do that. And you know, again, that was it. That whole scene, that summed everything up perfectly. So the following scene, when they sort of drag that whole emotion out, they go up to the Carl grave and talk about, this is why it happened, this is why I made these choices. It was completely unnecessary. It just soaked us in that emotional moment longer than we really needed to. It made it a little saccharine feeling. I think if they had just done the little scene, healing up or taking care of Judith's little injury there and learning about that Judith remembers everything, if they had gone from that scene right into picking up Daryl and Henry and everything in the horse-drawn carriage and taking them to Alexandria, I think that would have worked just fine. There may have been the question of where'd they get the carriage, you know, so I guess you kind of have to show they go to Alexandria. I mean, there's ways to connect those scenes, but that whole extra discussion, I think, really dragged out that emotional moment and really, I think, undercut the effectiveness of the previous scene. I think it was entirely unnecessary. But Darren, you've gone through almost the whole episode. Haven't you missed something? Of course I have. It's this week's Scene of the Week! And that is our Negan-Michonne discussion. It was just really nice. And as I said, I liked the last scene between Judith and Michonne. I think that it had emotional weight. I just felt that it was really undercut by the following scene. I think it sucked away a lot of its value. This is the scene that I kept thinking of. It's the one you waited for. As soon as we saw Negan, we knew that there was going to be this kind of discussion, and we get a great reveal from Negan. And I think a good emotional stretch out of both of the characters. Starting out kind of calm, Michonne wandering the sessions, why are you here? And Negan talking about, well, we talk about this stuff, and sometimes it's homework, and sometimes we talk about Dad, and sometimes we talk about this, and where we go, and Michonne throwing back, yeah, but did you talk about how you bash these people's heads in? And he's like, yeah, actually, I do. Why does she come down here? Because I shoot straight with her. And maybe if you did, you'd be talking about her and then realizing that she is gone and then bringing it up perfectly. She's my daughter. Of course she is. So you have to know exactly where she is because she doesn't take any crap, just like her mother. And she's going to go and get things done. It was perfect. It summed up the child's relationship perfectly. It showed up the importance of Negan here. It gave a great breadth that hits back and forth, but ultimately emotionally powering and pushed Michonne to see what all of the rest of us had probably seen from the night before, that of course Judith is gone and going after her friends. Where else would she be? So, yeah, I think the scene had it all. And yes, I'm partial. I really like Negan, and I like him in this role. I like him as this, taking up this sort of reference point. And again, being free to be able to say it straight and not cover up anything. Who is he protecting? He's in a cell. And not only is he in a cell, he's in a cell voluntarily at this point. It was the one scene I was really hoping to see, and I think they knocked it out of the park. Alright, just a couple of small things. First off, scars, the title of the episode, and we dealt with a lot of scars this week. Of course, primarily we have Daryl and Michonne's ex-scars. That seems to be the major implied, but we also have Henry talking to Lydia about his scar, the little stitches bit. Is it going to scar up? That's okay. It will remind you of what you did, and I will never forget it either. We also have Judith at the end talking to Michonne about her injury. Do you think it will scar? And if it does, yes, that's okay. Why is it telling us that scars designate important aspects of our history, important acts that we have done? They are major demarcations. They show that we lead an adventurous life. On the good side. On the downside, they can remind us of horrible events that we'd rather forget. But they are important markers in one's life. The opening of this episode taught me that a mud trap would be really smart to have around Alexandria and a lot of places. A moat, as it were, but a muddy one, because that seems to trap walkers real good. Just have a few narrow paths, little choke points, like we referred to last episode, in order to clear any attackers or anything like that. But walkers, especially with an army of whispers that can bring walkers, yeah, let's do mud pits. Moats all around. Thought we had a really nice moment between Daryl and Judith there on top of the water wheel bridges. It's cool stuff. I love the little inventions that we have here at Alexandria. But again, just a nice moment showing the connection between Judith and Daryl. Definitely reflections of Dad, of Rick right there. Even the moment that Judith said, well, what would my dad do? And Daryl just looks at her and she's like, yeah, that's what I thought. It's perfect communication. But it was just a nice quiet moment, nice quiet connection between characters. I love the notes on the wall of our Dark Pied Piper colony, Jocelyn's people, when they went in to find the kids originally, and all along the walls there's little drawings, how to skin a deer, how to fix a wound. I mean, these little instructions, I thought that was really cool. It's like, that's the important stuff that communities need to know in that world. Just thought that was really smart. Reminded me a lot of the Key for the Future book. Just important basic survival stuff. Oh, and there wasn't a lot of time, really, of seeing, like, Henry and Lydia, Daryl there in Alexandria again. That just sort of sparked Judith leaving, was sparking the whole pursuit and the memory stuff. Not a lot of time spent there. But there was one really, really important moment, I think, and that was Michonne's not-so-subtle hint to Lydia that maybe she should just take off on her own. She's talking about, I've made some bad choices, but if I was on my own, it would be different. I wouldn't endanger the people around me. If I could just take off and bring my troubles with me, I would do that. Just something for you to think about. Yeah, not very subtle at all, Michonne. It didn't work, but still, not so. And lastly, of course, we get our final shot of the Whisperers coming up to the kingdom walls and seeing a cart being drawn in. So yes, this basically means that the Whisperers have now found the kingdom, which means they have found the fair, which is something we've probably all been expecting ever since that damn fair question has been brought up. They have pushed it so much, they have pushed the importance of it, that everyone needs to come together. So now that the Whisperers have found it, I'm assuming with only 2 episodes left, that's where our big conflict is going to be. Now, what should happen with all these groups in one place is the Whisperers show up and should just get mowed right down. I mean, look, Whisperers, cool, they got a lot of them, and they got walkers, but these are groups of hardened veterans, war survivors against the saviors, against walkers in this world. They are serious badasses. So that's what should happen. It's probably not going to, because that would be a lot less drama than we would expect from the show. But yeah, so I'm expecting stuff's going down at the fair. But we will have to wait until next week to find that out. As for now, we're wrapping this thing up. Thank you so much for joining me with this review. And as always, if you enjoyed it, please go ahead, hit that like button. Subscribe to me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Darren Jakes. You can put comments down in the section below. Tell me what you thought about this episode. You can hit this button to subscribe. You can check out other videos right here. And, just make an afternoon of it. So, that's going to be it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.